Hi everybody and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel, and if you're returning, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you. Today's video is really special. My sweet friend Teresa B from Teresa B DIY has asked me to co-host her Crafting for a Cause series for the month of November. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about my charitable organization later on, but for now, let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. This is my inspiration picture. I saw it on Kirklands. It is super cute, but out of my price range, so we're gonna make it. I've got a Dollar Tree little bin. I thought I was gonna be able to take that flowers little wording off with some acetone. It wasn't coming off, but that's okay because we're going to go ahead and paint it white anyway. So I thought at first I might be able to use the galvanized tin, but then eventually I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go with that inspiration picture. So I also have these picks that I picked up from the Walmart, and these are boxwood, I suppose, but we're going to make them into whatever that little evergreen was. So I'm taking a wooden dowel and I am using some floral wire, and I'm just wrapping it and wrapping it, wrapping it at the tip of that dowel, and then I'm going to work my way down with some of the other picks. I have a total of 5 of the boxwood picks, and I'm just going to wrap them as you see here and just layer them on here as I go down. So I've got one at the top. I'll layer 2 more side by side or across from each other, and then once those are secure, I'll add in 2 more just down a little bit lower, and you kind of see where they go as you go. So you'll find a really good position for them so they tuck up nicely underneath the one that came before. Hopefully that makes sense. So once I got them all nice and secure, these actually do have like little divots in the stems. So I'm using those to my advantage to just make sure that the wire is catching really strong and staying nice and tight. And I just worked my way back up again. So now I'm using my little wire cutters to cut apart this little berry pick from the Dollar Tree. I'm just doing the little clusters of this, of 3 to 5 berries approximately, and doing my best. Now these are white styrofoam coated with some sort of a red enamel paint, and you can see some of the white is showing. So I pulled out one of my Arteza markers in a similar color. I think this one's called Wine, and I just went ahead and filled it in wherever I saw some white, and you never knew that it was imperfect. It hit it very well. So now I am going into my Cricut design studio on my phone. I am looking for something with farm fresh Christmas trees. Once I identified the design I wanted to use, it was already designed. I just picked it and set it up on there. Went ahead and got it to the right size for my little pail, bucket, whatever you want to call that. Used my Cricut Joy to cut it out. And then I went ahead and cut down my vinyl and weeded it and got it prepped. Now, I don't know why, but I tend to struggle with the smart vinyl when I try to get it onto my transfer sheet. So I didn't spend a lot of time showing you how I did that. It took some effort. So if you have trouble with that too, know that you are not alone. But I did finally get it onto my transfer tape. I'm applying it to my bucket. Now it is going to curve a little bit with the tapering of the bucket. So my farm fresh to the sides of the truck do kind of end up angling up a little bit. And that's normal just because of the flat design that I was using. And it doesn't bother me, but if it bothers you, that's something you might want to keep in mind and make sure you try to account for. I'm just using the back of my transfer tape paper there to help smooth it out so I don't knock up the vinyl as I'm going. I'm just using that same Arteza paint marker in that wine color to trim out the top of my little bucket. And once I'm done with that, I am going to take some of the Dollar Tree, what is that, floaty? You know what I'm talking about? Noodle, pool noodle. And I'm cutting this down to go inside my bucket to hold my greenery. Put a very generous amount of hot glue on there. I'm going to tuck it down inside, make sure I've got it centered. And then I'm cutting up smaller pieces of the pool noodle to wedge in around there just to give it some more stability, fill up my bucket, and so that I don't have to use a whole lot of more expensive filler to get it set up and for us to hide this actually later. So I'm just wedging it in there, holding the center really strong so that I don't end up knocking it out as I am wedging those other pieces in. And so you can see this holds it really well. Now I'm using just regular old Dollar Tree plastic bags and I'm tucking those in. Again, I'm just trying to fill this up with inexpensive material so that I'm not having to use more expensive, fancy looking materials to fill the whole bucket. So we'll come back to that in a minute, but right now I'm going to take all my little berries. You can see Sammy is off to the left watching me work, my little love bug, but he's frequently with me. But I am just taking my little berries with hot glue, adding a little bit of hot glue to the berries, and then tucking them in on the little branches here and there towards the tips, wherever I decided I liked it. This is Excelsior from the Dollar Tree that I'm dropping in around the base of my little bucket around my little tree. And I'll show you right now. See how cute? Loving this. DIY number 2. So for this project, I am using one of these styrofoam trees from the Dollar Tree, and it had this like seam in it, and I decided I didn't like that, so I was gonna try and spackle it. So yeah, I don't know. It camouflaged it a little bit. I don't know that it would have been worth this effort. Of course, then I decided I'm gonna spackle the whole thing. You do not need to go to this effort. You certainly can if you wish, but probably not necessary. Once it was completely dry, I gave it a good sanding just to get it nice and smooth. And then I gave it a good coat of Adirondack white chalk paint by Home Decor. So once it was all dry, I came in with my Mod Podge. I'm using a matte Mod Podge. You can certainly use gloss if you prefer. I've got some water there with a paintbrush, and I have my tissue paper. This is also from the Dollar Tree. And I am just tracing around the areas of the tissue paper that I want to cut out. I'm actually going to rip it. When you're decoupaging, if you rip your paper, it is less noticeable around the edges when you decoupage it. If you cut it, it tends to be much more apparent. You can see those cut lines. So highly recommend that you rip it. Now, when you use the water like that, it just allows you to rip it in a much more controlled manner. So I'm applying some of my Mod Podge, putting down my tissue paper pieces, and then coming back over it with more Mod Podge to smooth it down. And working with smaller pieces like this, if you haven't done Mod Podge before, this just makes it much easier to avoid wrinkles and bubbles and the like. So just working my way around, and especially with something like this, it's tapered. It's, it's almost impossible not to get wrinkles if you try to put one major sheet on here and want it to look the way that you want it. So now I'm using a wood bead and then this little tiny wooden disc, and then I'm also going to use a larger circle of wood as well in a moment. I'm just trying to make a base for my Christmas tree, and I was thinking if I had that little circle, it would have more grab power for the tree, and then I decided I was going to do it this way. So I have my round circle on the base. That's going to be the base of my tree. I stuck a skewer in. I kind of abandoned that little piece, that little round piece of wood, and now I'm just tucking this down into the tree, and you can see it stands up quite nicely. I'm just going to give that a coat of white, and we'll be all done. As I mentioned earlier, this is part of Crafting for a Cause, hosted by Teresa B. DIY, and it is my privilege to be able to share with you a little bit about Morgan's Light. I knew Morgan not well, but through a very good friend of mine, and it's with a very heavy heart that I say that she was taken at the age of 18 from her family and friends due to teen violence. An ex-boyfriend took her life. Her mother started Morgan's Light to draw attention to teen violence and how prevalent it actually is. I hope that you'll take time to check out Morgan's Light. There will be a link in my description box, and all of the proceeds from this video will go to the organization. So thank you so much for watching. Let's get back into the crafting. DIY number 3. So for this project, I am using the sign from Michael's that I had gotten in a grab box for $5 with a whole bunch of other stuff. It's normally $24.99, so I thought that this was a great deal. So I am going to be using my home decor chalk paint in Adirondack White, and I'm going to cover up all of the decoration that you see there. So I'm leaving the frame as is, but covering up the floral and all the words, and that took 3 good coats to make sure that everything was cleaned up and hidden for me. So once that was all dry, I went ahead and I cut down my Couture transfer and got that ready, and went ahead and centered it in the middle of my board. And then I went ahead and I got my little tape measure to make sure that everything was right in the middle. And once it was, I went ahead and kind of rubbed it down so that it was all good to go. This is really cool. It's like a silk screen kind of thing. So it's different than a stencil, but you can still use it over and over again for, I think, 10 or 12 times is what I've heard. So I'm going to use my pomegranate, and then I have a green shimmer, and the pomegranate's going on first with my little squeegee. And this is a new type of thing for me, you guys. I signed up for Couture a couple of months ago. I haven't done a lot of playing with it yet. This is, I think, my second piece that I've done with it, maybe third. But so I'm still learning how all of the paste works, and I understand after the fact that I need to mix it before I just jump in with it. The shimmer went down beautifully. My pomegranate, because of the thickness of the paste, because I did not stir it, it was a little bit blotchy, but I do go back in later and fix that, and I'm sure that next time I will have a much better success with it. But I'm using the same colors with the back of a paintbrush right now just to give little dots all around the outside. Once it's dry, I'm going to come in with my next, I'm going to call it a layer. I'm only calling it a layer because I knew it was going to, the transfer itself was going to overlap my mistletoe word there, so I didn't want to mess that up. So I had to wait until it was all dry. But I am just doing my little mistletoe transfer with the green shimmer, and I'm finding a little of this goes a long way. It's really, really great. So these little jars or pots, whatever you want to call them, should last me quite a while. So I'm going to come in and do the same thing with the other side, just laying down my little mistletoe, and then I'll go ahead and I will peel it up. I love seeing these reveals. I think it's so cool. So there we are. Now I'm coming back in with a little paintbrush, and I am just filling in where my little word was a little bit blotchy. So this actually turned out so sweet. I love this, and I hope that you like it as much as I do. I'm going to give you a peek at it all complete right here. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. So cute, Valerie. Valerie has been busy, adorable projects. And awesome, Amy. These are beautiful. And Amy has Crafting with Amy on YouTube now, so I hope you'll check her out. Sweet Bobby, I love those snowmen. And beautiful Kirsty, just gorgeous projects. And nice Harriet. Harriet has been busy too. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, please send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. So this is going to be our gift idea. I am going to be using Infusible Ink, and if you haven't been following me until recently, in each of these videos leading up to the holidays, my intent is to do holiday decor, but then also provide a gift idea. So I am using my Cricut Joy, and I am looking for the customizable mug design, and you can pretty much put whatever you want on these mugs. It has this template that you can use so you know exactly where to put things. I'm looking for my font. It was Girly Stencil that I was using for my font, and then I added in a heart, and here we are with the design. Once I did that, I made sure that I selected it all and clicked on attach. That lets it know that you want everything to print where you put it, or not print, but cut exactly where you put it. And then you also want to make sure that you mirror it when you're using Infusible Ink, especially if you have words, because it will end up backwards when you put it on your blank, for lack of a better term. So once I have it all cut, I'm going to peel my mat away from the product. And that's because this is kind of like a cardstock. It's much different than vinyl. And so you want to be careful not to crease it or, bend it so that it ends up with a wrinkle in it. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to weed it all out. And because it is like a cardstock, you can just kind of pop it up and just pull it right off. So it's actually much easier to weed than the vinyl. So once I have that all taken care of, in just a moment, I'm going to show you. I'm going to be grabbing my mug right about here. There we go. And we're going to be using the little lint roller to get off anything that might be there. Now that came right out of the package, but it says to just make sure that you do that every time, just in case, because anything on the mug will screw up your design. So applying my design on there, just making sure that there are no wrinkles, no bubbles, no gaps, and that backing that the product is on is actually sticky. So that's what's keeping it on the mug itself. I stuck it in the press. You probably saw that I put it in a little bit of an angle to just make sure I didn't knock the design off. And then you press it for the allotted time. Now you're supposed to let this stay while it cools, but it popped off when I set it down. So next time I'll be using some heat resistant tape to also secure it. This is still very hot, so I'm being careful when I handle it here, because you do want to just let it cool. But let me know what you think. And here we are with a final reveal. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the project, I hope that you'll give me a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, I hope you'll consider doing that. And please leave me a comment because it really does help my channel to grow. Until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.